Welcome! You're listening to Making Relationships Work. We're a company focused on women and their marriage. We lead and teach women just like you how to grow into and access, whenever you need to, your wise woman's self. The part of you who is deeply connected to your purpose, your innate wisdom, and your husband and family. We teach women in marriages how to rebuild trust and connection, to work through conflicts no matter how deep, no matter how painful, and to lead your marriage to a place where the two of you experience marriage mastery. This podcast is about learning the systems and techniques that truly work to reconnect you back into your marriage so that you can experience the freedom that comes with a masterful marriage. Since this podcast is totally free, if you're getting tons of value and you want to support us and make sure that you get more of this good stuff, subscribe below and rate and review our podcast today. Now, on to the show. Hello, Women Making Marriages Work, and hello to Making Relationships Work, which is our YouTube channel and our podcast channel. So happy that you're here with us tonight. So I wanted to talk with you about an idea. The idea that we get to decide for ourselves whether we've been successful in a day. And it sounds really simple, doesn't it? But very often that the women that I'm working with come to me and the people around them, particularly their husbands, because that's the kind of my zone of genius, is they're finding that they're being evaluated negatively, and they're starting to bring that negative identity into their everyday life because it's being fed with so many examples of their miscomings or their lack. And of course, these women are doing the same to their husbands as well. That's kind of the cycle of a relationship that's in that downward spiral. And so we've talked a lot about interrupting the way that you see your friend, your husband, and you can watch my masterclass. It really teaches that. But how do you interrupt the way he sees you? Because the truth is that you have many facets, and the view of you that he has built over the last 1 to 6 years, because remember, it takes a marriage 6 years to get in, 6 years of crisis before someone gets help, and you're here getting help. Yeah. So if we look at who he thinks you are now, it probably doesn't match who he thought you were when you got married. And it probably doesn't match who you see yourself as being. And so there's this gap, there's this discrepancy between who I am and how you see me. And then comes the question, like, what do we do about this? And how do I still feel good about myself? Because feeling good about myself is incredibly important. So one of the big things is understanding that when you don't see yourself well, when you use somebody else's view of yourself to determine your level of worth or your level of lovability, then you are essentially giving away your power, and you become somebody who is a shell of themselves, somebody who can't find their way through making decisions, someone who is kind of scattered and moves from thing to thing, trying to be successful, trying to kind of put it together based on what they think somebody else wants. And even as I start to describe this, you can feel that there's no real depth there. There's no real foundation. There's no real certainty or power or connection to self. It has been distorted into trying to understand what somebody else thinks of me and mitigate that through action. And so you can hear as well that that's exhausting because you are not able to just be who you are. You are trying to get your way out of being who you are by doing. And that doing is exhausting because you will never do enough to get yourself back onto firm ground. And so you think, well, how do I get myself out of this? Because I miss my husband, I miss my connection, I don't know how to do it. He won't go to therapy. Therapy didn't work for us. We can't find our way back, and things are dire. So how does this actually work? Because of course I'm going to chase my tail. Of course I'm going to try and be the best version of myself that I can be so that I can win him back. And to that I say, my darling, you will be exhausted by that, and you will not get long-term change from that. And in 6 months or 12 months from now, you will give up on that. And that will be the final death knell in your marriage, because you have tried and tried and tried, and you are physically exhausted, and it has literally had no difference. And so that is not the answer. That's the problem, but it's not the solution. And so, where do we start? Because we're in a space of exhaustion, we're in a space of not being able to influence. It's just the other side of Mother's Day now, and perhaps you weren't that loved or appreciated, or perhaps you understand that it could be even more open towards you, and perhaps you know that this isn't the life you're supposed to be living, but you don't know how to do it differently. Because if you knew how to do it differently, you would. And so if we take a minute and think, what happens if we don't do anything about this cycle? What happens if you don't learn the skills or you don't learn the infrastructure that allows you to live a different life, a life of being versus that scramble, scrabble, trying to get in front of the problem and manage your brand and be loved at the same time? That's no life, is it? But what happens if you stay in that space? Well, let's play it out. You manage to stay there for a few more years. The gap between you and your husband gets further and further. Your resentment builds and builds because you are trying so hard, you are exhausting yourself. And you're such a good person and you're trying so hard and it's just not being picked up. It's not being accepted. And so you're trying and you're trying and you're trying. And perhaps in his own way, your husband is too. He's modeling or mirroring this, trying to be something that you want, trying to do something that would make you see him differently. And the two of you are going to run out of energy. And that energy is going to mean that you will at some point choose to save yourself. One of you will, over saving the marriage. And when we get to that point, often I can get you back from there, but not always, because it's too far. Once that decision has been made to stop fighting for the we and start fighting for the me, we're in a slippery slope down, and it can go fast. Yeah. So our job is to not engage in this spiral, to not try and do your way out of this marriage. You can't be the perfect wife and have him come back to you. It doesn't work like that. You can't organize the house the best or change the linen on the sheets the most or have the neatest kitchen award. You can't be the best parent. Those things are attributes of you which are enjoyable, but they're not the thing that brings you and your husband back together. And so that is often the space that women go to is I'll make the house run well. I'll make the family run well. I'll be a great parent. And that's when we get the ships in the night idea. It's where we get co-parenting versus cohabitating. And what I want for you is to stop all the doing, except if it brings you joy or if it's required because you have dependence. And that's a responsible thing to do. And I want you to start finding your way back to being, and in that sense of finding your way back to being, what we're talking about really is who are you when you're not tuned into what you have to do for other people? Who are you when you are just yourself? Who are you when you're accepted for who you are, just being yourself? And how do you find your way home to her? Because here's the thing, if you could, you would. And so you're not, which means you can't. But you can't just yet. And so now we start to say, well, I need to find out who I am and I need to figure out how to lead my life from there. And I need to love myself in a way that is going to mean that I decide that I've had a good day today. I evaluate and enjoy the moments I've had with myself. I am the one who says, high five, lady, and who also says, perhaps tomorrow we might work in this space. I am the one who is the determinator of my success or failures. And here's a little caveat. We're not using that harsh inner critic to be the person to tell you about this. We're not doing that. She is not allowed because she is mean. And you don't deserve mean, actually. You deserve kindness and connection and gratitude and love and funny, humorous moments. You deserve a real relationship with yourself where you really enjoy who you are and getting to know yourself and making decisions from that space. Because that, my friends, is a very different way than the way that you've been doing it, which is, what does everyone else think of me? What needs to get done? How do I be the best version of myself in a doing way versus a being way? And that doing is what's going to bring my marriage back into line or into happiness. And it's also going to bring myself back, because when that's all in order, I'll be happy. And of course, you won't be, because you can't be, because who are you? And where are you? And where is your connection to yourself and that internal guidance and allowing you to get yourself into a space that works for you? And so that is the part that we focus on. And so how do we do that? Well, of course, you journal. Of course, you talk with yourself and talk through things. Of course, you are noticing and appreciating all the good things that you bring to the day. Of course, you are doing some things, but you're also in a space of being happy and contented in your own self. And so that is my gift to you today. How do you find your way home to yourself? Well, first of all, you make the decision that that's the place you want to have your evaluations come from. And then you start to build in the daily practice of getting to know yourself. Journaling, of course, is a really good way to do that. All right, my darlings, it was lovely to talk with you today. I will see you very soon. I hope you have a great week, and I love you very much. Thanks for being a part of this community. Talk soon. Bye, darlings.
Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you're feeling fired up and you're ready to grow and you want to know more about how to do that, here is what I want you to do now. I want you to watch my marriage masterclass. This masterclass will show you how my clients have turned their struggling marriages into thriving marriages, even without their husband's buy-in. How my clients have gone from cycles of poor communication, disconnect and loneliness to being teammates and soulmates with their husbands again, even after they've already tried everything. And the proven system my clients use to start transforming their marriages in minutes, not years, because life is too precious to waste one more minute in an unhappy and unfulfilling marriage. So if this is what you're looking for, I want you to click the link below and take a look at my masterclass.